Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the show. This is Jake Broe, coming to you live from the front lines of truth. Smash that like button right now. It helps YouTube push this critical breakdown to millions more people. Straight to the point. Iran has just unleashed Operation True Promise Waves 27 and 28. After the US and Israel bombed oil refineries, south of Tehran, sending massive black smoke clouds and toxic black rain pouring down on the capital, Iran retaliated with advanced ballistic missiles striking Haifa's oil, refinery, and port facilities. This war has just entered a whole new phase. And let me tell you why this new phase is so dangerous. This entire war is completely illegal and unlawful. There is zero mandate from the United Nations. The Americans and Israelis simply decided to launch it, thinking it would be a quick promenade. Donald Trump himself said the first stage would be over in just 3 or 4 days. He started by openly calling for regime change in Iran. Then, the very next day, he flipped and said he doesn't want regime change anymore. He actually wants to personally pick Iran's next leader. After decades covering wars in the region, I've never seen such ignorance. Trump has no clue how Iran actually works. He doesn't understand their political system, the 8-8, member assembly of experts, their constitution, or the deep pride of a civilization that stretches back thousands of years. Compare that to Benjamin Netanyahu, who has decades of experience and has been preparing the ground for this very campaign without any time limit. Trump's approach shows complete absent knowledge. He treats Iran like some small country he can just order around. He has no idea who he's dealing with, and that miscalculation is going to cost everyone dearly. And here's what makes Iran's retaliation so effective right now. Iran doesn't need to fire hundreds of missiles every day. They only need 10 to 20 precise strikes per day to keep maximum pressure on the enemy. That single tactic is already forcing Washington to feel the pain and seriously consider a ceasefire. What the US and Israel are doing is not about destroying Iran's nuclear program or missile factories. They are deliberately targeting Iran's entire economy. Their goal is to create so much destruction that whoever ends up ruling Iran will spend the next 20 years just trying to rebuild the country. That's their real strategy. At the same time, America is failing miserably at protecting its own assets. Satellite images published by the New York Times confirm that 22 US military bases across the region have been either completely destroyed or severely damaged. American personnel are now fleeing their bases and hiding in hotels in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Riyadh because the Pentagon can no longer guarantee their safety. Meanwhile, Iran is hitting exactly where it hurts the most. They are striking Haifa, Israel's main industrial port, oil, storage facilities, and naval base. They are also hammering Tel Aviv night after night. Every single one of these targets is chosen to create maximum economic and military damage. This is not random. This is calculated pressure that the US and Israel did not expect to last this long. And despite all this damage, the US and Israel are desperately trying to censor every image and video coming out of the region. But the truth is leaking through anyway. Even NBC had to air clips of American soldiers in Kuwait panicking as Iranian missiles slammed into their base. You can hear the soldiers screaming that the lights just went out after a direct hit. The censorship is failing fast. At the same time, Iran has shown incredible patience in this war. They are not in a rush. They can easily keep this going for 6 months or even a full year. Their strategy is like slowly peeling a mandarin, one careful layer at a time. They don't need to overwhelm the enemy in one day. They just need to keep the pressure constant until Washington and Tel Aviv crack. And then there's Hezbollah. Their entry into the war has shocked everyone. Israel called up 100 to 110,000 reserve troops back in December 2025. Thinking they could crush Hezbollah quickly. But Hezbollah turned the situation into an existential fight for survival. The Lebanese government had labeled Hezbollah an outlaw organization. Israel had already violated UN Resolution 1701 over 15,000 times in the previous 500 days. Hezbollah realized they had nothing left to lose. Their society was already under threat from both the Lebanese army and the Israelis, so they went all in. Now Hezbollah is hitting Israel with ferocity that Israeli officials openly admit they did not expect. They are forcing the Israeli Air Force to split its attention between Lebanon and Iran. And here's the key point. Hezbollah has made it crystal clear they will not stop until Israel fully accepts UN Security Council Resolution 1701 and allows Lebanon to rebuild. They are using this moment to protect their people and secure a real ceasefire. This combination of Iranian patience and Hezbollah's determination has turned the war into something the US and Israel never planned for. And despite all this damage, the US and Israel are desperately trying to censor every image and video coming out of the region. But the truth is leaking through anyway. Even NBC had to air clips of American soldiers in Kuwait panicking as Iranian missiles slammed into their base. You can hear the soldiers screaming that the lights just went out after a direct hit. The censorship is failing fast. At the same time, Iran has shown incredible patience in this war. They are not in a rush. They can easily keep this going for 6 months or even a full year. Their strategy is like slowly peeling a mandarin, one careful layer at a time. They don't need to overwhelm the enemy in one day. They just need to keep the pressure constant until Washington and Tel Aviv crack. And then there's Hezbollah. Their entry into the war has shocked everyone. Israel called up 100 to 110,000 reserve troops back in December 2025, thinking they could crush Hezbollah quickly. But Hezbollah turned the situation into an existential fight for survival. The Lebanese government had labeled Hezbollah an outlaw organization. Israel had already violated UN Resolution 1701 over 15,000 times in the previous 500 days. Hezbollah realized they had nothing left to lose. Their society was already under threat from both the Lebanese army and the Israelis, so they went all in. Now Hezbollah is hitting Israel with ferocity that Israeli officials openly admit they did not expect. They are forcing the Israeli Air Force to split its attention between Lebanon and Iran. And here's the key point. Hezbollah has made it crystal clear they will not stop until Israel fully accepts UN Security Council Resolution 1701 and allows Lebanon to rebuild. They are using this moment to protect their people and secure a real ceasefire. This combination of Iranian patience and Hezbollah's determination has turned the war into something the US and Israel never planned for. And now, with the pressure mounting from both Iran and Hezbollah, Donald Trump is quietly talking about sending American ground troops into Iran. He calls it a strategic operation, not a full invasion. But let's be honest, this plan is completely insane. Iran is a massive country covering 1.64 million square kilometers of mountains, deserts, and fortified terrain. Trump's idea is to push Iraqi Kurds across the border to spark an uprising. That move alone would be suicide. Iran has already warned they will immediately destroy Erbil and Sulaymaniyah in response. That would wipe out the Kurdish oil economy and give Baghdad the perfect excuse to swallow up Kurdistan once and for all. On top of that, Iran's ground forces are still completely untouched. We're talking about millions of regular army soldiers, plus hundreds of thousands of Basij militia, all fresh, dug in, and waiting. They have barely been used because this has been a missile and drone war so far. If American troops actually step foot on Iranian soil, they will walk straight into a mountain meat grinder they are not prepared for. This is not strategy. This is desperation dressed up as policy. But while Trump is daydreaming about sending ground troops, the real story is still happening in the sky. Israel keeps claiming that Iran has no more missile launchers left. They say the entire program has been eradicated. Yet every single day, Iranian missiles continue to fly and hit targets across Israel and the Gulf. That contradiction is impossible to hide. The fact is, Iran is still launching missiles on a daily basis. They have switched to solid fuel technology. These missiles can be ready to fire in just 5 minutes. No long preparation time like the old liquid fuel ones. Many of them are stored and launched straight from underground silos. That makes them almost impossible to find and destroy from the air. Iran's geography helps them even more. The country is 1.64 million square kilometers of mountains and tunnels. Spotting every mobile launcher is a fantasy. On top of that, these missiles are hypersonic. They reach speeds of 15 to 19 Mach. They do not slow down even during the final descent phase. Israel's air defense systems simply cannot keep up with that velocity. Now here comes the weapon that is causing real panic in Tel Aviv. The Khaybar-Shikan series, also called Khaybar missiles, these are cluster warhead missiles. Each one carries between 25 and 80 submunitions. The warhead opens high above the target in space or the upper atmosphere. The bomblets then spread out over a huge area. No missile defense system in the world can intercept dozens of small warheads falling at once. Each submunition has between half a kilo and 1 kilo of explosives, enough to destroy vehicles, damage infrastructure, and create chaos across wide zones. These missiles are specifically designed to overwhelm Iron Dome, Arrow, and Patriot systems. Even when interceptors do hit the main body, the cluster bomblets are already released and raining down. That is why you see so much damage in Haifa and Tel Aviv, despite all the claims of total destruction of Iranian capabilities. The truth is staring everyone in the face. If Iran's missile program was really finished, who exactly is firing these weapons every night? The numbers don't lie. The footage doesn't lie. The damage on the ground doesn't lie. Iran has not shown any sign of running out of ammunition. They are simply choosing a slower, more sustainable pace. They proved on day one they could fire over 200 missiles in a single barrage. Now they are pacing themselves to exhaust the enemy's defenses over time. Each Iranian missile costs a fraction of what a Patriot or THAAD interceptor costs. It is the classic cheap drone and missile versus expensive defense system trap, and Iran is winning that math every single day. The most important point of all is this: Iran does not need to win in the traditional sense. They only need to refuse to surrender. As long as they do not raise the white flag, they have not lost. They can absorb damage, rebuild later, and still stand. That is the reality the US and Israel refuse to accept, and the consequences of this war are already hitting hard across the entire region and beyond. Oil prices have exploded. Brent crude is now well over $90 a barrel and still climbing fast. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively paralyzed. Commercial tankers are refusing to move, and insurance costs have jumped from $250,000 to $12 million per voyage. Europe is feeling the pain immediately. They have already lost 37% of their gas supply in one stroke. Qatar's LNG plants are shut down after Iranian strikes. Russia has cut the remaining pipeline gas. Factories are preparing shutdowns and winter is still months away. The Gulf states are in total panic. 95 to 100% of their drinking water comes from desalination plants. Every single one of those plants is now within easy range of Iranian missiles and drones. Netanyahu's plan to make the Arab countries crawl back to Israel is backfiring badly. The Gulf is starting to realize they are paying the real price for America's war. Israel's economy is taking massive damage. Haifa port and refinery are burning. Tel Aviv is under constant pressure. The Iron Dome is firing non-stop and running out of interceptors. The Israeli public is spending night after night in shelters. Even the strongest supporters of Netanyahu are beginning to question how long this can continue. And the United States is losing global credibility by the day. They started an illegal war with no UN mandate. They are now seen as fighting for Netanyahu's political survival rather than any national interest. American bases are burning. American soldiers are hiding in hotels. And the American people are being forced to pay higher gas prices while watching their military get humiliated. These are not small side effects. These are the direct results of a war that was supposed to last only 3 or 4 days. Instead, It is dragging the entire world into a much deeper crisis. And the situation is getting even more dangerous because the US and Israel have now crossed a very dangerous red line. They have started directly attacking Iran's desalination plants. These strikes have already cut off freshwater supplies to more than 30 villages and localities across the country. This is not collateral damage. This is intentional. They are trying to make civilian life impossible by depriving people of drinking water. Attacking objects indispensable to the survival of the civilian population is a clear war crime. It is explicitly prohibited under the Geneva Conventions. It violates Article 54 of Additional Protocol I to the Geneva Conventions. It also falls under the Rome Statute as a crime against humanity. Iran now has every legal and moral right to respond in kind. Look at the Gulf states. 95 to 100% of their drinking water comes from desalination plants. Kuwait is completely dependent 100%. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Oman are all between 86 and 95% dependent. Every single one of those plants sits well within range of Iranian missiles and drones. If Iran chooses to strike back at Gulf desalination facilities, the entire region could face a catastrophic humanitarian disaster within hours. Benjamin Netanyahu knows this perfectly well. His strategy is cold and calculated. He wants to destroy Iran so completely that the Arab Gulf states will have no choice but to crawl back to Israel begging for protection. He has said it openly: once Iran is finished, the Arabs will normalize relations on his terms and accept Israeli dominance. But this plan is already backfiring. The Gulf governments are starting to panic. They are realizing they are the ones paying the heaviest price for America's war fought on behalf of Netanyahu. And while all this is happening, Western media is pushing a completely fake victory narrative. Fox News is running segments claiming the US and Israel have already won. They say they killed the Ayatollah, eliminated 40 top leaders, degraded Iran's military, and even unified the Gulf behind America. Every single one of those claims is false. Iran still has functioning leadership. Missiles are still flying every single day. The Gulf is not unified. They are terrified and divided. This is pure propaganda designed to hide the reality that this war is spiraling out of control. The escalation over water infrastructure has raised the stakes to a level that could trigger a much wider regional collapse. And the consequences will not stay in the Middle East. And at the end of the day, this entire war comes down to one man's desperate attempt to save his own skin. Benjamin Netanyahu dragged Donald Trump and the United States into this illegal conflict. His only real goal is to avoid prison on multiple corruption charges. Trump went along with it, showing once again his complete lack of understanding of the region and its people. The American public is now paying the price. Higher gas prices, a humiliated military, and a war that is tearing the global economy apart. They elected this president. They now bear responsibility for the disaster he has unleashed. That is the brutal reality we are all facing.